in politics in America. Like, he wants to be a king, and kings aren't just not held to account by courts. They don't believe the courts are in a position to hold them to account. And so, I think the judges understand that what Donald Trump is engaged in here is not a policy dispute, but is a dispute about whether or not the courts even have the legitimacy to hold him accountable.
Well, yes, I agree with you. My judgment is that everything I do should be required doing. So I agree with you on that. Bang the gavel, Mark Galanis. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Still to come, one woman's battle for the spotlight. How a Republican congresswoman apparently tried to build her own online army ahead.
I'm a self-employed farmer and consultant. I purchased my own insurance agency. The recent legislation passed by the House will result in at least a $4,000 tax increase for my family for our local school board president. I'm a church trustee and donate time, gas, and equipment to load our 6-acre church campus. I'm one of your constituents. I'm about as liable as you can get. Quite frankly, you voted monster today.
Those are the kinds of questions Iowa Republican Congresswoman Ashley Hinson had to field at her town halls yesterday. For the record, she didn't have a great answer for voting to raise that farmer's taxes. These kinds of questions from constituents are getting more familiar to the few Republicans who still actually hold town halls, especially in the wake of their very unpopular bill passing in the House. Part of the thing about this era of American politics with Trump, now in year 10, is that it's exhausting. And there's always this sense, I find, of asking yourself, does any of this matter? Like, the stuff we do here on this show, or any of the coverage of what he's doing, is any of it getting through? It's starting to seem the answer is actually yes. In fact, the American people aren't just rolling over, and they are paying attention. Here's what that looked like in Nebraska's first district. Right? This is where Republican Congressman Mike Flood decided to try and explain his support for Donald Trump's agenda.
My question is a very general question. The administration of Trump has done a series of very illegal things that the courts have deemed illegal, and yet they still keep doing them. I will give you some examples. The deportation of the immigrants, the man who was not supposed to be deported, the cutting of overhead rates for NIH and NSF, which was appropriated by Congress, by the way. At what point, even though you are a Republican and he is a Republican, are you willing to break with him? What does he have to do?
I took an oath to support the Constitution of the United States, and that oath supersedes any one person, myself included. I am a tiny speck in the big picture, but I am an important part because I represent you. So let me tell you this, I hear you. The president has to follow the Supreme Court's orders. Next question.
Okay, next question is, what in the world is the purpose of renaming the Gulf?
A majority of Americans voted to elect Donald Trump president of the United States. I voted for it in sync with almost the entire Republican conference because at the end of the day, I have to focus on the things that matter, and it celebrates the country that we love and the continent that we love.
Congressman Flood, at your town hall in Columbus, you promised that you would not vote for a bill that cuts Social Security and Medicare. Now, the Congressional Budget Office has determined that the bill you voted for last week will trigger $500 billion in cuts to Medicare. You either lied to us or you have been bullied into voting against our health care in favor of giving $5 trillion in tax breaks to billionaires.
Okay, I want to speak very specifically about Medicaid because most of the cuts in the bill really addressed Medicaid.
I share your concern for our national debt, but the ends do not justify the means. Can you please tell us why you voted to approve a budget bill that includes Section 70302, which effectively prohibits federal courts from enforcing contempt orders? your administrations to ignore those contempt orders by removing the enforcement capabilities?
I do not agree with that section that was added to that bill. This provision was unknown to me when I voted for the bill.
Okay, next question. Next question. It is not addressing the cause of our hardship. That is, the president is destroying our democracy by defying the courts and the Constitution, attacking and silencing free speech in the media, allowing security breaches, erasing history, using tax dollars and presidential power for personal gains, blaming DEI and using it to discriminate, and promoting eugenics and genocide, all while showing signs of cognitive decline. Your votes, actions, and inactions show that you are a fascist politician, so please explain how you are not encouraging fascism, and are you going to invoke articles of impeachment against Trump?
I get that you get an applause line when you call me a fascist, but I'm not. I am not a fascist. I'm an American, and I would never call you something like that.
Again, Donald Trump won that district by 13 points. It's a Republican district, safely Republican. And that congressman won his election by 20 points. It's a really red area where constituents confronted their congressman with good, detailed, pointed questions. If it can happen there in red Nebraska, it can happen anywhere a Republican is willing to face constituents.
Stay connected with the MSNBC app, bringing you breaking news and analysis anytime, anywhere.
All the stories that we're covering are live and happening as we speak.
Watch your favorite shows live.
What's happening right now is a hostile takeover of the U.S. government.
Read live blogs and in-depth essays, and listen to coverage as it unfolds. Go beyond the what to understand the why. Download the app now at msnbc.com/app.
One of the fundamental problems we're having as a country right now is that many of the things that make people good at getting elected, specifically in this age, the ability to generate attention, no matter the kind, doesn't make those people good at running the country. I mean, obviously, Donald Trump is the prime example of this, but there are a bunch of other people who this applies to as well. One that really comes to mind is Republican Congresswoman Nancy Mace of South Carolina. The Daily Beast reported in 2023 that Mace's staffers were told they, quote, needed to book Mace on national TV outlet between 1 and 3 times per day, a staggering 9 times per week at minimum. Now, Wired reports Mace's former staffers say she had them make burner accounts to promote and defend her online. But we had to make multiple accounts, burner accounts, and go and reply to comments saying things that weren't true. Even Reddit forums, a former staffer says. We were congressional staff, and there were actual things we could be doing to help the constituents. Jake LaHut is the senior writer for Wired who broke this story. He's been covering Nancy Mace for years. He actually wrote that 2023 Daily Beast piece as well, and he joins me. It's good to have you here.
Good to be back in person.
So, tell me about the burner accounts here.
So, these are essentially, Mace has her own set of them, and I've gotten suggestions about which ones may be hers that, I cannot confirm yet. But then you have the staff side.
Wait, but let's just stop there. So she has her own, what her staff says is she has accounts that she makes that aren't her official accounts. They're just like random people who then come into social media to defend her.
Yeah, not necessarily a Mitt Romney Pierre Delecto type deal, from my understanding. But yeah, to follow, monitor, and see what people are saying about her, and push back on folks. Right. But then at the staffer levels, where it gets really unconventional and weird, because they're doing battle with randos in the comments on, take your pick of social media sites. And I mean, the Reddit one especially struck me as quite a deep cut and wild. But I think, this is the recurring theme when we talked about Mace. She has this kind of unadulterated, rather pure insight into what drives attention now, and kind of how the fractured media ecosystem means you got to be everywhere, you got to try everything.
Yeah, I want to. This was also a real wild part of the reporting. Leslie Donahue, whose firm did consulting work for Mace, said in a deposition. This is a deposition.
Yes.
She programs her own bots. She sets up Twitter burner accounts. This is the kind of thing she does. She sits all night on the couch and programs bots because she's very, very computer savvy. She controls her own voter database. She programs a lot of her own websites. She programs Facebook bots and Instagram bots and Twitter bots. It's what she does for fun. This is someone saying this in a deposition to essentially an unrelated lawsuit.
Yeah, in South Carolina, of course. I think she's a good example, actually, of this thing you describe in your book about the kind of spectrum from boomers to Gen X on down, where the more scarce information was early in your career, the kind of more hungry you are for like whatever would come your way. And she came up in the early internet. She's 47 years old.
Yeah.
And what was interesting in talking about the way she describes herself as a self-taught coder, which has been part of her political biography since the beginning, is that one of these people's like, hey, I never saw her coding anything. That's not the quote. That's from I can't say on TV.
Right.
The other odd part of it is she's basically using like rudimentary tools that are available for anyone with a public Facebook account, anyone with an Instagram, like a professional page where you can automate comments. And like if someone says thank you, Nancy, it can like give an automated response.
Right. But what's clear to me is that this is a person who has sort of been, I don't know if it's in her personality or her brain has been pickled in the brine of the internet for too long. I think this happened to Elon Musk. I think it's happened to others. I mean, Musk be most, where getting attention at all times is clearly her reason for being as a member of Congress. I think that's a fair characterization.
I think that traditionally there's been this kind of two-way tug for a newly elected member of Congress, where it's like we're either going to focus on legislative affairs, allocating resources there, or to constituent services. And I think the truly innovative thing about Nancy Pelosi, if I can give her some credit here, and she has been tweeting about the story a lot.
Yes. Well, of course. I mean, obviously. Why not?
Anyway, I think what's really innovative about her is that she's introduced this third pillar, which is the attention economy. And it's like, hey, what if we just go all in on this? And her staff was saying, she did reintroduce a bill on tech this year. She is involved in legislation. But like in terms of the real, what's going to occupy her focus for most of the day and for the staff, that's it.
I mean, that's the thing that's so striking about your reporting is that it's not just her, but the idea that like you've got a big congressional staff, you have power on a platform as a member of Congress. What are you going to do with that staff? And it seems like in just a resource allocation sense, and I don't know if that's true of Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is a sort of somewhat similar profile, the resource allocation is really going towards like from her all the way down to staffers who are sitting with anonymous handles fighting with people on Reddit.
It was just drafting tweets for her to fire out. That was one of the ones that happened to her.
So that is where she has focused, and this is a kind of like new model of being a member of Congress, which I think is increasingly dominant in this time.
Absolutely, and I think you see other members who agree with this, but I think Mason just goes so much deeper into making the staff get involved in these minutiae early that a competent comms office can accomplish. But she also churns through the staff at a high rate, which I think is notable as well.
What was her response to your story?
She preempted the story by saying Wired was writing about her dating life and that she is married to her job in the state of South Carolina.
Are you writing about her dating?
No, it was tangentially related to this deposition.
Right, that's the lawsuit has something to do with it. Right.
Yeah.
She also did like a bunch of things where she had a bunch of burner phones, as if you were saying she has burner phones. But again, I think that one of the conundrums here for this kind of individual is, and she does, she takes these pictures of herself from bathrooms everywhere she goes, is that she seems to also thrive on negative attention, a la Trump.
And that is the key skill. That's the key skill in this era. I think that Elon was a different side of it, but kind of iterated to a new extent. And she's just the interesting, maybe the most interesting one in the house.
Yeah, there's a question about like what kind of personalities, what kind of people we're selecting for in this age. But this is what we have to work with right now. Jake Mudd has been doing great reporting on this beat for a while. Thank you. That does it for All In. You can catch us every weeknight at 8 o'clock on MSNBC. Don't forget to like us on Facebook. That's facebook.com/allin-with-Chris.
Subscribe to MSNBC Premium on Apple Podcasts. New episodes of all your favorite MSNBC shows are ad-free. Plus ad-free listening to all of Rachel Maddow's original series, Ultra, Bagman, and Day
Simply Safe provides 24/7 protection, so no matter what's happening out there, you always have peace of mind. You know what's some peace of mind is John Levitt, who set up a Simply Safe all by himself. So he had top-of-the-line sensors. Quickly, you can turn it on and off from your phone. It can protect you from intruders, fire, from other scary monsters. That takes, all kinds of things. Not that particular level of that takes. But with Simply Safe, millions of Americans enjoy the new standard in home security, greater peace of mind every time they alarm their system. When heading out in the morning or locking up each night. Traditional security systems only take action after someone has broken in already. That is too late. Simply Safe's Active Guard outdoor protection to help prevent break-ins before they happen. If someone's lurking around or acting suspiciously, these agents see and talk to them in real time. They activate spotlights or even contact the police, all before they have the chance to get inside your home. No long-term contracts or cancellation fees. Monitoring plans start affordably at around $1 a day, 60-day satisfaction guarantee, or your money back. Visit simplysafe.com/crooked to claim 50% off a new system, a professional monitoring plan, and get your first month free. That's simplysafe.com/crooked. There's no safe like Simply Safe.
Right now, we are living through some of the most tumultuous political times our country has ever known. I'm David Remnick, and each week on the New Yorker Radio Hour, I'll try to make sense of what's happening, alongside politicians and thinkers like Cory Booker, Nancy Pelosi, Liz Cheney, Tim Walz, Ketanji Brown Jackson, Newt Gingrich, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Charlemagne the God, and so many more. That's all on the New Yorker Radio Hour, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Welcome to Pod Save America. I'm John Becker.
I'm Dan Pfeiffer.
On today's show, we'll shed some tears over Elon's official White House departure, talk about Trump's push to kick international students out of the United States, and dig into the president's latest pardon spree, which I'll get into more with the Justice Department's former pardon attorney who was fired by Trump for not giving Mel Gibson his guns back. Liz Oyer. A sentence I never thought I would say, like many of the sentences here on the show. But first, bad news for Trump's favorite economic policy, good news for everyone who doesn't like higher prices. Most of the president's tariffs were ruled illegal Wednesday night in a unanimous decision by a 3-judge panel at the U.S. Court of International Trade, including a Trump appointee. Not only did the court order an immediate pause on the tariffs, Trump has to refund every American company that's already had to pay tariffs. The Trump administration immediately appealed the ruling, which led to an appeals court deciding that the tariffs can remain in effect while the case is being considered. So let's head back there. The initial ruling came the very same day the president lost his shit when a reporter asked him about a phrase that's become popular on Wall Street to describe his trade policy, TACO, which stands for Trump always chickens out. Here's a clip of that exchange.
Tariff threats, and that's why markets are higher this week. What's your response to that?
Kick out.
Sue's sister said, "Hi Mike, Mum is looking forward to going to Otter Nursery tomorrow. Any idea what time you will be here? Need to make sure she has her face on. Would you like to reply?"
Because I reduced China from 145% that I set down to 100 and then down to another number. 6 months ago, this country was stone cold dead. We had a dead country. We had a country people didn't think was going to survive, and you ask a nasty question like that. It's called negotiation. You set a number. Don't ever say what you said. That's a nasty question. To me, that's the nastiest question.
I like that he finally went just full Biff from Back to the Future.
Well, also that he immediately thought it meant kick out, because that seems to be what he's deport. Trump always deports.
And he's like, chicken out. Chicken. I've never heard that. Oh yeah, you've never heard chicken out. Yeah, no,
yes, but then it dawned on him that he's being made fun of, and it hurts deeply in his soul. You can tell.
So it is important to note
That's not for this podcast.
That's not for this podcast. No, we're not going to bore you with that. You can go listen to Lovett talk about that when he talks about salt on some other podcast. With all that said, what is your reaction to the court ruling, which at the very least may save Trump from more taco jokes at the time being?
Well, if it does nothing else, it's still a win. I mean, I've been sort of waiting for this to happen. It's always been interesting that the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, which whose authority Trump has used for release terrorists, does not include the word tariff in it. It's not listed as one of the remedies that a president can undertake here. And that sort of just got lost in all of the tacos we've had since then. And been sort of waiting for that, because a lot of the things that Trump does, the immediate thing is he has done something a court will probably stop him, because the thing he wants to do is stop by the Constitution or this explicit law or whatever else. This one was always sort of the subtext of what was going on, and it's notable that it's finally happened. This is going to make its way to the Supreme Court, I assume, and they will render a judgment. But the short version of this now is more chaos. Right? There is, the chaos came from Trump's taco strategy. I'm so sick of saying the word taco already. But of tariffs on, tariffs off, tariffs off. Now you have the court involved. What happens if you have brought products in the 12 hours between the ruling on Wednesday night and the ruling on Thursday afternoon, and not pay tariffs on them because you just brought a fuck ton of iPhones over and got those in for free? So it's very chaotic. This is a short-term stay on the ruling where they figure out what's happening. I'd be surprised if they kept the tariffs off as it wound its way to the Supreme Court, but it's more uncertainty for businesses, which is bad for the economy.
Yeah, and the markets reacted positively, very positively, as one can imagine. I wonder how they'll react tomorrow. This is Thursday that we're recording this. Once they find out that the tariffs are back on, while the process goes to the Supreme Court. They also I don't know. The Supreme Court, obviously, quite a conservative majority. I don't know. It feels like there are a lot of free traders. I feel like there's some real traditional conservatives on that Supreme Court that might not like the trade war, but hard to say. There's also people who really like to, who believe very much that the executive has all the power, the president has all the power. Though this does go to the Alien Enemies Act question too, which is Trump just gets into office, declares everything an emergency when there is no obvious emergency or any emergency, and then tries to take a lot of moves that you're not supposed to take, just based on this false pretext that there's an emergency.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's not really an economic question for the court. It's a question of executive power and whether this use of this authority, which is not granted in law, oversteps his executive authority and abridges Congress's. And so, you do have free traders, but you also have people who believe, as you say, in subversion or something approximating the unitary executive theory that would suggest that they would give this to him. So this will be interesting. I tried to go to Twitter to find some good legal analysis, and I discovered that it all moved to Blue Sky. All our favorite lawyers are on Blue Sky now.
Did you go there?
I did go there, yes. And there are mixed opinions about where this is going.
Caroline Levitt at the briefing today sort of previewed, I think, what their legal argument is going to be, because someone asked, I think Peter Ducey asked, Trump has a Republican Congress that usually does what he says, why not just go have him pass the law if it's up to Congress to do it?
Keep going. Get him all in.
Do you think this ruling could end up being good politics for Trump? Did this court save Trump from himself?
I don't think having your signature policy pieces struck down by the court is ever great politics. It makes you look weak and ineffective over the course of time. If the courts were to rule that Trump did not have the authority to do these tariffs, that would probably help him politically in the same. It's sort of the legal equivalent of putting a cone around a dog's neck, right? It prevents him from doing damage to himself by hurting the economy further with tariffs. I do think the fundamental political, like, as you look at 2026, if we are in a tariff-sparked recession and prices are incredibly high because of Trump's tariffs, that would be incredibly bad for him. But even having said that, what has happened over the first 140 or so days here is the way Trump has done the tariffs has undermined the central premise of his presidency, this idea that he was no matter what else you thought of him, that he was an able manager of the economy. You have seen that come down significantly. Even if his approval rating has gone up a little bit, it's reaching just like still historically bad for a president at this point in their term. It's not getting hot anywhere near where you would expect it to be in a typical honeymoon period. But I think there has been real damage done by the tariffs. So that damage will linger no matter what else the court does between now and then.
Right, and crucially, tariffs or no tariffs, prices have not come down. Inflation has come down, but prices haven't really come down. And it's not like he's been getting excellent economic news anyway. So yes, chances of recession, if these tariffs stay off, certainly go down. But people's feelings about the economy, which going into Trump's term were already, there were a lot of concerns about prices and costs. Those don't go away, nor does his only signature piece of legislation that he's trying to pass through Congress do anything about that. In fact, it makes it worse for a lot of people.
No, for the people who need the most help, it raises their prices.
Yeah. In other good news, the White House's biggest Doge bag has finally left the building. Elon Musk, my good friend and mentor, announced on his platform that his time as a special government employee has officially come to a close after 128 days where he destroyed vital government services and his reputation while saving taxpayers just under 8% of the $2 trillion in spending he originally promised to cut. But don't worry, the Trump White House's own Cato Kalin is going to be coming back and popping into meetings once in a while, so he's not gone for good. And he has also said that, quote, the Doge mission will only strengthen as it becomes a way of life throughout the government.
Where'd the Cato Kalin reference come from here?
He's been sleeping at the White House.
I know what it means. It's like a 1994.
Well, in my mind, I'm thinking of like those stories that he was like sleeping in the EEOB, like he's got like a sleeping bag on the floor and he won't leave, and on the cabinet's like, this guy, we've had enough of him, but he still won't leave. That's like the house guest. When you say house guest who won't leave, and you grew up when we grew up, you think Katie?
Okay, all right, I buy it. I mean, it is correct. I was surprised to read it today.
And I have to insert a reference in every pod that the 35 or under set doesn't really understand, so that's important.
I mean, this one is for like the 40 and under, which is pretty close.
Anyway, what do you think? Will Doge become a way of life? Has Doge become a way of life?
I mean, isn't it already? I mean, don't you wake up every day and pray to the Doge god? You're wearing your Doge gear. Yeah, no, I'm not sure. I'm not sure Doge will not be a way of life for me. I don't know about you.
What do you think is next for Doge? Do you think it's just gonna be something we forget about? I know there's a Doge package of cuts that's apparently heading to Congress.
Yeah, I think Doge, they're going to theoretically, reportedly, send up some cuts for Congress to enact and put into law. They're doing that somewhat reluctantly. They've basically been bullied by the Doge bros online into doing this. But Doge, as we know it, I think is toast. It's just this effort.
It just lives on in our hearts.
Yeah, we won't forget it. Like, we will always know where we were the day that Doge started and the day Doge ended. We will think fondly of our time with Doge, but Elon Musk had the ability. He did it in the least effective, most chaotic way possible. But because he was someone with real political capital
a massive media platform in the ear of the president, he was able to end run the cabinet secretaries and make some of these cuts. That most of them got upended by the courts, but he was able to do things that are not going to be possible with some, flunky in charge of the program now, right? Yeah. So it's, I just don't see it having any sort of the same impact that it had in the first 100 or so days.
The guy originally said he was going to be able to cut $2 trillion. Then he revised that down to $1 trillion. Now he says that he cut about around $175 billion. That number is what Elon Musk says. Reporters have dug into that as much as they can and found that some of that money is counted twice. Some of it's contracts that had already been canceled when Elon got there. So it's probably less than $165 billion. They are sending a package of Doge cuts to Congress for Congress to codify, to pass, so that they're there for good. That is only $9 billion. So now we're down to $9 billion. The package that they are trying to pass, the one big beautiful bill, is going to add about $4 trillion to the deficit. So $9 billion, it's about, that's a lot less, Dan.
I see you trying to do that math in your head right
It's
there.
about 0.25%, I believe, of the $4 trillion.
Did you do that just right then and there?
I did.
Okay, well, we'll check that later.
Let's see. I don't know. We'll see. I'm not the math major host.
Neither am I. It's it is true that he cut a lot less than he said, but actually the cuts he did are probably going to end up costing the government money because he made things so much more inefficient, and he cut the IRS, which is going to now collect less in taxes and allow more people to cheat on their taxes, which is good. So in the end, all of the excitement, the chainsaws, the weird hats, the weird press conferences, the attention, Elon Musk ended up costing the government, where he increased the deficit through his own ineffectiveness and stupidity.
Yeah, a couple of other items he's going to be able to put on his resume that are under the Doge section. He closed a bunch of Social Security offices around the country. He tried to change how you call Social Security office for help, and basically screwed a bunch of seniors who were trying to make calls and they couldn't get through anymore because they had to walk that back, all the changes to Social Security, so he fucked that one up. There were a bunch of layoffs at after-school programs that he tried to cut. We're still dealing with a bunch of FEMA cuts as we head into hurricane season. So that's something he can be proud of. This is from Reuters from just a few weeks ago. Food rations that could supply 3.5 million people for a month are rotting in warehouses around the world because of USAID cuts. These food rations could feed over 1 million people for 3 months. So that's just a great example of government efficiency there, because U.S. taxpayers have already paid for the food, but then they fed USAID into a wood chipper, which he was quite proud of, and now the food is rotting places all around the country that could all around the world that could feed millions of people. So that's another thing he did. 1.6 million people could die within a year because we cut HIV prevention and treatment. Nick Kristof in the New York Times, he actually traveled to Africa because Elon was going around saying, no, what do you mean people have died? No one's died. That's a liberal exaggeration. It's hysterical, blah, blah, blah. And sure enough, Kristof went to a bunch of different places in Africa and found that people are dying right now because they've lost the funding from USAID. Kids are dying of hunger, tuberculosis, polio. Those are all threats now that people have to worry about again. This was from The Guardian yesterday. A 43-year-old woman and mother of 2 with advanced cancer is experiencing life or death delays in treatment because of NIH cuts. So here at home, if you don't care about people dying all over the world for absolutely no reason because we could keep them alive on pennies a day, we have a bunch of people here who are counting on cancer treatments and other medical treatments who are not be able to get them now because we have cut medical research in some of the world's best medical research institutions here in the United States. So that's what Elon can be proud of. That's his legacy.
This is great work all the way around.
How do you think the Elon rehabilitation tour is going to go? You think he's going to be able to rehab his image?
I do not, John. I think no amount of rehabilitation is going to help his image. I think he has done permanent damage to his image. He might be able to recoup some of the shareholder value of Tesla's other companies by being less public and cutting less cancer research and maybe showing up to work every once in a while. But in the end, the damage to Musk himself and to Tesla and the other companies, I think, is pretty close to permanent. I mean, it is just a notable thing when your customer base feels a need to put a bumper sticker that says "fuck Elon" on the back of the car from the company you own. And also, just what is this like? What in his recent history has shown he would have the self-discipline to stay quiet and help his image? Like he's going to be going through withdrawal here very quickly. He was the center of the universe for over a year, right? Heading back to the 2024 campaign, he's out on the campaign trail. He's got his black MAGA hats on. He's in the Oval Office the whole time. He's doing press conferences. He's in the center of attention. He loves attention. His tweets are driving he was killing legislation with his tweets and appointments with his tweets. And now he's just going to be tweeting about the latest features in a Tesla car or the latest SpaceX launch. I just find that hard to believe. He needs to be able to stay away from the controversy of politics.
I'll be looking forward to the first profile that's done in like a month or two about how Elon's feeling and how he's been a little depressed since he's been out of Washington and all that, and what his next moves are. Because I agree with you that it seems hard to believe that he's just going to stay out of the spotlight after this.
I mean, he was so thirsty for attention, he spent $45 billion to buy Twitter.
He sure did. And boy, was that a worthwhile purchase. One important legacy from Elon is the work he did to help keep a liberal majority on the Wisconsin Supreme Court by making his polarizing self central to that Supreme Court race in Wisconsin. Do you think Democrats will miss having Elon around as a punching bag?
Yeah, probably. I mean, Elon Musk, the world's richest man, being in charge of an effort to cut food assistance to poor people, cancer research, firing federal employees, was like the perfect metaphor for the plutocratic cruelty that is Donald Trump's Republican Party. It was perfect, and it was used to great efficacy in Wisconsin, and you could see that happening everywhere. It's a very mobilizing thing for Democrats when the world's richest man is trying to buy elections, as he tried to do in 2024, and he really tried to do it in Wisconsin. I mean, it was like a great gift to Democrats that Trump appointed one of the world's most famous people, someone with an amazing ability to get attention, to implement a series of really, really, really unpopular policies.
Yeah.
Normally, if you want to do things like, cut food assistance or cancer research or food safety inspectors or cut public education, you want to do that under the radar. Putting someone who gets attention for every single thing they do was a huge gift. It's sort of like if you want to rob a bank, you probably don't want to hire Kim Kardashian as your getaway driver. It's like, and so that was a gift to Democrats. We're not going to have that going forward, but the underlying arguments that we used in Wisconsin without Elon Musk's name still are very resonant and have potential to be very powerful in 2026.
I also am hoping that less attention on Elon, who does consume quite a bit of attention, means more attention on all the people who we can defeat in an election, Republicans in Congress, who I feel like haven't been getting the attention they deserve from people because they have been just rubber stamping every single thing Trump does and basically just giving up all of their power to just be extensions of the White House staff. And I do think that maybe, now that we're going to be debating this bill for the next month or so, it's a good opportunity to make sure people know that it is the Republicans in Congress who have quite a bit of power that they are using to screw people.
Do you think this is, I'll take this on a diversion here for a second, but do you think as we head into 2026, the more energy should be spent on Trump and what he's doing with this bill, or on the individual the House Republicans who are voting for him?
I don't think, I think it's both. I think you've got to tie them together in a way that we have not tied them together yet. And I think individually, individual races, obviously they're going to have the person they're running against. But I think Donald Trump and Republicans control Washington, right, together. And they are in lockstep. No Republicans have broken from them. This is what they're doing. This is the damage they're causing. And Congress is an extension of the White House staff. I kind of think that's the best way to do it, but I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I don't know. There's the House races are going to rise and fall together. Right? It's like none of these members are so important. They're like, oh, we have such a personal connection to Michael Lawler that I want to vote for him despite my incredible concerns with what's happening in Washington with Trump. I mean, Trump's a double-edged sword. The way our electoral coalition works, as we talked about last week between the catalyst data, is we want midterm turnout. We don't want anything above midterm turnout.
Right.
And Trump has potential to turn people out. So I don't know. I don't know the answer to it yet, but there's no question that it can't be just Trump. Right? It's got to be Trump and Republicans, and that's also just playing the long-term game of presuming Trump doesn't upend the Constitution and engage in a military coup between now and 2028. We're going to run against a Republican who's not Donald Trump in 2028, and so we need the bad stuff of Trump to infect the rest of the world.
Yes, and that's sort of my point originally, because I do think that is a task that we've not focused on as much. But I think also, like, just thermostatic public opinion, voters who don't pay close attention, but who do turn out in midterms, just think to themselves, oh, Trump's doing a bunch of bad shit, we gotta have a check on Trump right now. It's full Republican control of Washington, we need some balance back in Washington. Even the people who sort of like Trump, right? So I do think there's that dynamic as well.
Pod Save America is brought to you by Fast Growing Trees. As we speak, as I sit here, as I speak to all of you, a fast-growing tree is being sent to this office, where it will sit somewhere and look beautiful, and I will water it personally. Probably not, but someone else will. We will keep it alive forever. These fast-growing trees have a great product. I'm actually with two people right now who have fast-growing trees. One recruit lime leaf tree, which can be used in cooking. Learned something new today. Also a ficus fig, which just looks gorgeous. It's a stunner. It's a knockout. There's all kinds of options of fast-growing trees. And did you know that Fast Growing Trees is the biggest online nursery in the United States with thousands of different plants and over 2 million happy customers? They have all the plants your yard needs. Fruit trees, privacy trees, flowering trees, shrubs, and so much more. Whatever plant you're interested in, Fast Growing Trees has you covered. Find the perfect fit for your climate and space. Fast Growing Trees makes it easy to get your dream yard. Order online to get your plants delivered directly to your door in just a few days without ever leaving home. Their Alive and Thrive guarantee ensures your plants arrive happy and healthy. Plus, get support from trained plant experts on call to help you plan your landscape, choose the right plants, and learn how to care for them. Look, it's nice that these plants in your house or your yard landscape looks beautiful. It can be intimidating. We don't know how to do it. You're like, I'm not good at that. What if I killed the things? That's why Fast Growing Trees has you covered. They will walk you through the whole process, beginning to end, make it easy, and it will look great. This spring, they have the best deals for your yard, up to half off on select plants. The other deals, listeners to our show get 15% off their first purchase when using the code CROOKED at checkout. That's an additional 15% off at fastgrowingtrees.com using the code CROOKED at checkout. Fastgrowingtrees.com/crooked. Fastgrowingtrees.com code CROOKED. Now's the perfect time to plant. Use Crooked to save today. Offer is valid for a limited time. Terms and conditions may apply.
All right. As Trump bids farewell to his favorite foreign-born Ivy League graduate, he's trying as hard as he can to make life miserable for over 1 million others. The administration has decided to stop issuing all new student and exchange visitor visas while they create a new process to monitor the social media accounts of anyone who wants to go to school in America. National Archivist Marco Rubio said the State Department, where he interns, will be, quote, aggressively revoking visas for an unknown number of the 275,000 Chinese students studying in America, and said the crackdown would include, but not limited to, those students with ties to the Chinese Communist Party and those studying in, quote, critical fields. Trump also floated the idea that colleges should just cap foreign enrollment at around 15%. In better news, a federal judge blocked the Trump administration's attempt to bar Harvard University from enrolling foreign students, at least for the time being. This comes as the administration is trying to cancel basically all federal funding to Harvard, most of which is really just the federal government essentially hiring Harvard to do medical and scientific research that benefits the whole country. Here's Caroline Levitt on Fox News talking about Trump's policies here.
electricians, plumbers. We need more of those in our country and less LGBTQ graduate majors from Harvard University. And that's what this administration's position is. And we also are not going to tolerate the illegal, criminal, anti-Semitic behavior that we saw take place at Harvard and many other college campuses across the country.
LGBTQ graduate majors. Is that
are they major? I'm very confused by that.
They're majoring in gay?
Yeah, that's what. Are they majoring in gay or are they gay graduate students?
Probably both.
Either way, I'm not sure the issue is here.
Either way, you do not want them anywhere near our colleges. That's for sure. We need more plumbers. We need people going to Harvard so they can be plumbers. That's what we need.
You could really nauseate yourself with dizziness by trying to follow the logical thread of that comment.
Yeah, no, I'm sure, someone's going to try, like, you're going to get the J.D. Vances or someone else to intellectualize this argument and be like, you elites, you don't understand that our trade schools are important and that we need people who are going to make things again and not all these email jobs with all these beta males and women behind their computers just producing nothing. We need to build things again in this country, and you're all just a bunch of elitist snobs who are thinking otherwise. That's the rap.
That's I assume Trump's free community college plan is coming out any moment now.
Well, he does want to donate some of the federal funding that's going to Harvard to the trade schools, which I don't even know how that works. He's probably not going to actually do that, and I don't know what those trade schools would do with the funding, because there is no evidence that they need federal funding, because they are not research universities. So, if we expel enough international students from America and destroy some of the world's best colleges, is that going to lead to more jobs for Americans?
No, John. I don't think it's going to. I think it's going to lead to less jobs. And let's put aside the destruction of American higher education for a second, and just focus on just if we reduce or eliminate the number of foreign students coming to American colleges. What happens is the best and the brightest from around the world come to college in the United States, because this is the best place to get an education. It is the cultural centerpiece of the world, the educational centerpiece of the world. Many of that best and the brightest, they go to college here, they stay here, they work in American companies, and most importantly, they start American companies. Google, eBay, YouTube, Nvidia, all huge. Tesla as one, yes. SpaceX, all companies that employ huge amounts of Americans, have generated tons of wealth, have been some of the most innovative companies in the world, started in America by immigrants who came here to go to college. So now those people are going to go elsewhere. They're going to go to college elsewhere. They're going to start companies elsewhere, and that's going to be it's a huge brain drain for the United States. It's one of the most self-defeating things we could possibly do. It just fundamentally misunderstands what our strength is as a nation. Where we lead the world is in innovation. And we are going to make that. Trump is basically running an anti-innovation agenda. It's not just kicking these kids out of school. It's also cutting the research that you're talking about. I just was reading yesterday about how China is now leading the world in drug trials. They're beating us in that game because we're going to make that easier because of what Donald Trump's doing.
I just heard a story. We're losing doctors to Canada. Doctors are starting to leave to go to Canada because they don't want to be in the United States anymore because of everything RFK Jr. is doing, because of Trump's cuts to NIH, because of everything, and it's just easier to go somewhere else. Students in the academic year 2023-2024 academic year, international students contributed $44 billion to the U.S. economy, supported 378,000 jobs. That's just the students before they go off and start companies, just because of all the research they do. International students comprise 5% of higher ed enrollment in this country. And the thing is, they are heavily concentrated in graduate programs. So this isn't even a big undergraduate thing. They're in graduate programs, and they are especially in graduate programs around subjects like engineering, computer science, research. And we also have a situation in the country where college application rates, not like acceptance rates, application rates are falling among U.S. students. So if you have those falling, basically what you have is a lot of graduate programs in the STEM areas, in science and math and engineering, all those very important areas. And U.S. colleges can't really fill those slots. It's not because it's so competitive and the international student got in and the U.S. student got in. That's not happening. It is, they need international students to fill those slots. And without them, and by the way, international students also tend to pay full tuition. right? That's another thing that we're getting from international students. And because they pay full tuition, that allows these colleges to help subsidize their operations, their staff, and financial aid for American students. So if we kick out all the international students who are paying full freight to college, that's going to mean more cuts to colleges. That's probably going to mean higher tuition for other students, and that's going to mean less students being able to go.
Yeah, it's
so fucking stupid.
It's so dumb. There is no purpose to what is happening here.
I was yelling about this, but like JD fucking Vance, he posts this long tweet over the weekend, and he's like, here's the deal with the Trump administration's policy towards universities. There is a reproducibility crisis where published papers from research universities fail to replicate and turn into commercial adoption. And so basically all this research is being done is not generating enough jobs and businesses. And that's a problem with these elite institutions. And also all of these professors, their voting patterns, it's like North Korea. All they do is just vote for liberal, vote for Democrats. And also there's racial discrimination against whites and Asians. And these are the problems that President Trump is looking to change. And if the colleges would only work with Trump to change these policies, instead of just yelling fascism, then, we could be all better off, and so could the colleges be better off. And that's what this is really about. It's about, he said, basic democratic accountability. So he gives this long bullshit intellectual argument for why Trump's doing this. And then the next day, Trump gets off the plane and a reporter asks him why he's doing this. And he's like, too many foreign students at Harvard. Too many. Some of them could be terrorists. Too many. We got to watch them. They could be some bad people. It's like, okay, well, there you go, JD Vance. Yeah, you can do your reproducibility crisis, but Donald Trump just thinks there's too many foreigners in our colleges. That's it.
What a sad existence that JD Vance lives in.
So fucking sad.
He goes out there, he twists himself into a fucking pretzel to try to justify his entirely new set of beliefs that he's just adopted for the purposes of acquiring power, and to somehow make Trump seem less like a fucking moron. And then every day Trump goes out and just acts like a fucking moron, and in doing so makes JD Vance look weak and dumb and like a fucking moron.
Yep. And it's all the tech bros, the oligarchs, the Elon Musks, the All-In crew and their podcast. When Trump went on the All-In podcast and was like, I'm really for stapling a green card to the diplomas of international students who come here for college, and the All-In guys are like, see, Trump's really much more moderate on immigration. What a great thing. And it was fucking bullshit the whole time. No one believed that was Donald Trump's actual position. And now, not only is he not stapling a green card to their diploma, he's kicking them all out of the fucking country. And it's not even just like future students who may come here. There are students who are here, Chinese students. What about Marco Rubio, who's going to fucking revoke visas from Chinese students? We have 275,000 Chinese students in this country. And he's just going to take their visas away for what? For what?
Because they're tied to the Chinese Communist Party, meaning they're from China.
Right, yeah. They're from China.
As at the same time, it's also fucking incoherent that it is hard to take, because we're going to kick out students who might have ties to the Chinese Communist Party, but we are going to bend the law to allow the Chinese Communist Party's social video app to exist for as long as humanly possible. Yep. You can have an opinion on the TikTok ban, you can have an opinion on it, but your opinions have to at least have some sort of ideological coherence. You can say we're in a giant race to compete with China, and we don't want China to be the way it is, but we're not going to allow their students to come here and be culturally acclimated to the United States and go back there. And we're also going to be in a race with China, and we're going to gut all of our innovation initiatives to allow China to get the head start on things like solar and wind and green energy and all that. It's so stupid.
Well, then, JD Vance is very upset that admissions policies are discriminating against Asian students. And so the best way to rectify that is to make sure that the largest group of Asian students in this country, who are international Chinese students, actually the largest group of any ethnicity who's in this country is international students, we're going to kick them all out. So it all works out.
JD Vance grew up the way he grew up in Appalachia, gets into an Ivy League college, succeeds because of it while sacrificing a lot of his dignity and morals and the above, and then burns the fucking bridge behind him.
Pod Save America is brought to you by strawberry.me. So here's the thing. At some point in your career, you look around and think, wait, is this the job I really want? Is this where I want to be 5 years from now? Or why is everyone from from my college group suddenly leadership, and I'm still stuck in the same role. And if that hits a little too close to home, it might be time to stop winging it and actually get some help. If you're ready to land your dream job, or considering switching careers, or are ready to level up in your industry, working with a career coach can make all the difference. That's where today's sponsor, Strawberry.me, comes in. They match you with a professional career coach who actually helps you figure out what your next move is and build a strategy to get there. It's like therapy for your career. You get insight, structure, and someone who holds you accountable so you stop spinning your wheels and start making real progress. Whether you're striving for a promotion or pivoting to something totally new, your coach is there to help you build your plan, follow through, and make it happen. Take the quiz, get matched with a coach, and start moving forward. Head to strawberry.me/crooked to claim your $50 credit. That's strawberry.me/crooked. Because if you want real career success, don't leave it to chance. Get the right coach and make it happen with Strawberry.
All right, in a moment, I'm going to talk to Liz Oyer, who's the DOJ's former pardon attorney, about Trump's latest pardon spree. But before we do, I thought we would talk a little bit about the political implications of those pardons in another Corrupdate.
Corrupdate.
There you go. That's ask and ye shall receive.
Yes. You ask 1,000 times, and one time you will get it. The truth is, you have to ask publicly on a podcast.
I did, but you know what? Elijah came up with that sting really fast, right away.
That's good.
So that's what we got.
Now we are Trump's toast. Now this was the thing.
This is it. This did him in. So this week, Trump and his new pardon flunky, Nazi simp Ed Martin, extended pardons and commutations to at least 25 people, among them former reality TV stars Todd and Julie Chrisley, who were convicted of tax evasion and defrauding banks out of over $30 million, but are also huge Trump supporters. Also, former Congressman Michael Grimm, who was also convicted of tax fraud. A former Virginia sheriff, who then became a minor MAGA celeb, who was caught on video accepting bags of cash. Caught on video. Over $75,000 worth of bribes that he got for making wealthy businessmen deputy sheriffs with no training. They paid him money. He gave them a badge. There was no training. They gave him a bag of cash. They caught it on video, but he's MAGA, doesn't like immigrants, so he gets the pardon. But my personal favorite is Paul Walzak, a convicted tax cheat who pleaded guilty to tax evasion and fraud, but received a pardon after his mom, a major Trump fundraiser, recently attended that $1 million a plate dinner at Mar-a-Lago. The best part, she made sure to include the fact that she's a major Trump donor in the application for clemency, which was of course granted. And guess what? Now Walzak doesn't have to pay over $4 million in restitution to the people he screwed. What do you make of this clemency spree?
Seems pretty corrupt. I mean, the Walzak one.
That's why it's in the Corrupdate section, Dan. That is, that's
well, now everyone will know where it is because we finally have the sound that proves it. Yes,
we did the right thing here.
Yes, I mean, all Trump's doing is just pardoning his political cronies and financial supporters. Like that's what's happening here, and we're all just fine with it. I mean, the Walzak one is fucking perfect.
Just goes to the dinner.
She put the bribe in the application and got the pardon.
And look, this is, we've talked about Trump's corruption and how it's out in the open and whether it's an effective political message and whether it's really going to piss people off. And I would bet that a lot of people aren't necessarily surprised that Trump's going to abuse the pardon power and abuse his office to help his friends and cronies. But the situation with Walzak is extra infuriating because he ripped off a bunch of people, right? His own people, nurses. He withheld more than $10 million from the paychecks of these people who worked at his facilities, nurses, doctors, etc. So he stole money from people who worked for him. He used some of the money to buy a $2 million yacht and then gave $1 million through his mom to Donald Trump, got a pardon, and now he doesn't have to pay the money back, which he was going to have to do. So he committed a crime, screwed over a bunch of working class people who were at his facilities, and now he gets off and those people get screwed. And if that's not if that doesn't make you mad, if you think that's okay and good for Donald Trump, great, you got your president. But that's pretty fucked up.
There is just something about that pardon in particular, they're all bad. They were so cool. There's something about that pardon in particular that just speaks to the sort of depraved world in which we live, where it's just like, that was a story. New York Times wrote a great story about it. Lots of stories about it. No one cares. Nothing happened. In a different world, we've been doing a lot of 90s reference in this pod. But on his way out the door, Bill Clinton pardoned Mark Rich of the United States. Mark Rich's wife, Denise Rich, had donated money to Bill Clinton, had been at fundraisers. Rich himself had been a big fundraiser. It was a national scandal for weeks. In a normal world, what would happen with his Wells Act pardon is, because it looks like bribery, can a court prove that it was bribery? I don't know. But by the definition of bribery, like in a dictionary, this is bribery, and the Attorney General, who would be an independent figure, would appoint a special counsel to look into it and then determine what communications happened between Walzak's mom and Trump aides to do the quid pro and the quo in this. And none of that's happening. We're just going to move on, and it's pure. We're going to get to this in the next topic, but it is pure pay to play in Trump's White House.
Then there would be impeachment hearings, most likely. And
then Trump's approval rating would go up. And so, can we just stick with a conviction, or we would get convicted that he could be able to run for a third term? But point being, there should be a fucking investigation somewhere, somehow, on some of this stuff.
And this is, I talked with this about Liz Oyer in our interview a bit, but what really gets me about this is like the financial corruption around the pardons. But remember, he pardoned all of the January 6th rioters, many of whom were convicted of assaulting police officers, journalists, like really badly. They're all free now. And by the way, he frees those people. One who was convicted of assaulting a police officer has been convicted again of soliciting a minor online. Another who was convicted of assaulting a police officer was convicted after this person was released by Trump, of sexually assaulting a minor. Another, also convicted of assaulting a police officer, freed by Trump, has been convicted of reckless homicide after drunk driving. So these are criminals that Donald Trump freed, who should not have been freed because they violently assaulted police officers and journalists. They were let out of jail and they went and commit crimes and they hurt people. One woman was killed, a child was sexually assaulted. Like this, and the broader implication here is, if you are a foot soldier for Donald Trump, whether you're a January 6th rioter, whether you're a law enforcement official, if you do his bidding, if he orders you to hurt someone, to kill someone, to commit crimes, you know that you're going to get a pardon. You know that you're going to get a commutation if you go to jail. And so what message does that send to people who want to commit crimes in Donald Trump's name? It tells them that it's fucking fine.
It's a very clear message. Go commit crimes on my behalf.
And I know that the January 6th thing happened, the pardons happened on January 6th, and it didn't really stick with voters, and it wasn't like what made voters the angriest about Trump, and his approval rating is still where it is. But I don't know, if you're sitting around in your community and there's a bunch of MAGA crazies who want to commit violence, I'd be worried. I think that's something that actually affects voters. It affects most people in this country, that we're going to have a country full of people who just know that it's okay to commit crimes in the president's name if they're rich, or if they're Trump supporters, or if they're rich Trump supportors.
This is where a little bit of the media disparity comes into play. And I know that this whataboutism can be very frustrating, but I think it's important. These examples are illustrative to make a larger point about how the media world works and how we're getting outgunned. Imagine a world in which Joe Biden had pardoned some Black Lives Matter protesters who had been convicted, certainly not even convicted of any peaceful protests, right? Not convicted, nothing like
vandalism, right? Burning
Vandalism,
a car,
right? Graffiti, whatever.
Yeah, right, whatever.
And had pardoned them, and then one of them had assaulted a child or killed someone in a car accident. Can you imagine what the political environment would be like? Every person in America would know this happened.
Every single person. It would be 24-hour coverage on every right-wing media channel and show, and then also it would move to CNN and everywhere, and all the corporate media and all the legacy media would all cover it. It would be a big fucking thing.
Every Democrat would be asked to whether they disavow Biden's pardons. They would. someone would be forced, like Gerald Golden or someone would be forced, like pressured into putting a censure motion into place. The White House press briefing would be an absolute shit show every single day.
Meanwhile, like those examples that I just mentioned, those happened weeks and months ago. That wasn't this week. Those were old examples that I found that I just remembered because we were talking about the most recent pardons that have to do with financial corruption.
I mean, and you just, like, I was listening to Ezra Klein's podcast with Zeke Fox, the crypto reporter, and they're going through all of the crypto crimes, and it's just, and Ezra makes the point that Trump it's muzzle velocity corruption, using Steve Bannon's term. It's just, you're doing so much corruption, so many crimes so fast that it's impossible to keep up. That is true, but it's also a failure of the media. And I don't mean just entirely the New York Times or something like that. I just mean the media world, which includes the Democratic Party, Democratic influencers, people with podcasts like us, to have the power to actually drive a conversation that informs people about this, and we don't have that power yet.
One last item, just to make us mad before
I'm so mad about this
interview. There's news that Paramount, parent company of CBS, has offered Trump $15 million to settle the lawsuit that he has against 60 Minutes for, choosing the edit on their Kamala Harris interview, choosing which parts of the interview they put on television and which parts they put online, because you can see the whole thing, either online or on TV. If you want to find it, no one's hiding anything. Still won, still beat her, didn't matter. But anyway, so they offered Trump $15 million to settle this case, but he said no, because he's demanding more than $25 million plus a public apology. And his lawyers are arguing in court that Donald Trump suffered, quote, mental anguish from CBS News editing the 60 Minutes interview. What do you think?
Sometimes you just have to step back and explain these things to realize just how fucking crazy they are. Paramount has a merger with Skydance before the FTC. There's nothing particularly controversial about this merger. We can talk all we want about media consolidation, but this one's pretty pro forma, certainly with the Republican administration. It would be greenlit under any scenario. Donald Trump sued CBS, as you point out, for a completely absurd case that would be tossed out of any